Welcome to the third session of the day after two intense and very warm morning sessions. We have with us one of India's and world's finest poets, K. Sachidanandan, moderating the Malayali session on autobiographies from the margins. Like most Indian languages, the voice of the marginalized in first-person narratives in a recent phenomenon in Malayalam. The autobiography has emerged as a reinvented, rejuvenated genre in Dalit and women's writing. Such autobiographies have begun to change the dynamics of the Malayalam literary scene. They have destabilized the canon and have founded a new avant-garde in aesthetics and its social reception. This session discusses the impact of some of the most compelling stories of collective experience written in this supposedly subjective genre. We are fortunate to have with us Sister Jessamy, Pokudan, Nalini Jamila, and C.K. Janu, who are among the few powerful voices from the margins of Kerala's social and literary life. I request all of them to take their seats on the stage.
Session on autobiographies, but not the so-called mainstream autobiographies, but autobiographies by people who still, in fact, are on the margins of Indian mainstream society. I'm not going into any history of autobiographies in India or any, going in at length into the history. We know that India has a long tradition of autobiography, which we can trace back even to the 7th century, even though it was never called autobiography. There are autobiographical stories, references in many 7th century texts. And later you find in 1647 we have a proper autobiography by Banarsi Das, who was a Jain poet. And in the 19th century, autobiography becomes a major genre of prose writing in India, along with other genres of prose which were in some sense a product of our interaction with the West. And we have again a tradition of women's autobiography in a big way, because some of our earliest autobiographies were written by women, by Rasundari Devi, for example, or Swarnakumari Devi, by Binodini Devi, who was an actor. And we have also in 1890 perhaps the first autobiography by a sex worker. So in the last 30 or 40 years, women's autobiography has become one of the important subgenres of autobiography in India. Even recently we have Ajit Kaur, Amrita Pritam, Kamala Das, a lot of them writing extremely exciting and stimulating autobiographies. It is also said autobiography is nobody can write a dull autobiography. It is said, maybe it's an overstatement, and still I think there is some truth in that, because we are interested in hearing other people's stories, because by hearing them we believe that we in some sense get an insight into our own selves and also into the human condition in general. And here we have, and along with women's autobiographies, another subgenre that has developed is certainly Dalit autobiographies. We have several now, even available in English translations, like Siddhalingayya's Uru Keri from Kannada, or again Devanuru Mahadeva, another Kannada writer, has a very poetical autobiography called Kusuma Bale. Bama is quite well known to you, probably, the Tamil writer, for her autobiography Kuruk, followed by her novel, which was also semi-autobiographical, called Sangati. And then we have quite a few in the north, in Marathi and Hindi and Punjabi. We have Balraj Mathopuri, who is just sitting here, who has written one of the exciting autobiographies among the Dalit writers. We have another writer here, Lakshman Gaikwad, who spoke yesterday, whose autobiography, Uchelya, is also equally well known. There is Lakshman Mane, who wrote Upara, and there is Sharan Kumar Limbale, well known for his Akkarmashi, another major autobiography. So we have a lot of women's and Dalits autobiographies, and at least in the last 10 or 20 years, autobiographies have begun to be read under various kinds of disciplines like post-colonial studies and gender studies and subaltern studies. And it seems that a lot of interest, sociological, psychological, literary and philosophical, converge in the study of autobiography. This session is unique in the sense we have 4 autobiographers writing in the same language, but people who come from very different backgrounds, whose lives have passed through agonizing experiences of various kinds, excruciating experiences of different kinds, and who, when they grew up, decided to tell their own stories so that they know, that the world comes to know how, for example, a sex worker lives, how a tribal woman in Kerala lives and grows into a leader, how a man who was a major communist activist who had gone underground becomes an environmentalist, and he is recognized almost across the world as a major environmentalist for the protection of mangrove forests, which are extremely crucial to the protection of environment. And we have a major tribal leader who grew, perhaps she is the first organic tribal leader of Kerala, and maybe one of them in India itself, because earlier tribal leaders all were non-tribals, and that definitely makes a difference when a tribal, speaks about tribal issues. And we have Sister Jasmi, who she calls herself Sister Jasmi even now, even though actually she left the convent for reasons about which she may have much to tell you, and who is no more a sister in the conventional sense of the term, even though she would like to call herself still a sister, and she continues to be devoted to Christ and to the religion. But she is also a rebel in her religion, for which of course she has been condemned, abused, because she brought to light a lot of darker aspects of the life within the convent. So we have 4 people who have rebelled, in fact, in various ways against commonplace notions, against stereotypical understanding of who is a Dalit and who is a sex worker and who is a sister and who is a tribal. And that is what makes their stories extremely interesting for all of us. We will have 1 or 2 readings later. Maybe we will begin, I'll begin asking them some questions to which they will respond, and I shall try to, of course, Sister Jasmi has a doctorate in English literature, and she's the principal of a college in Kerala, so she does not need to be interpreted in that sense, but the others will be speaking in Malayalam, but I'll sum up what they say, and if possible also translate what to me seems important. So where do we begin? Because if I begin with him, you will think that, well, I'm beginning with a man. And if I begin with her, you will think I'm beginning with somebody who knows English. So let me begin elsewhere. Let me begin with Janu. Janu, എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഈ ഒരു ആദിവാസി പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളിലേക്ക് ആദ്യമായിട്ട് വരാനിടയിൽ? ആദിവാസികളുടെ എന്തെല്ലാം ദുരിതങ്ങൾ കണ്ടിട്ടാണ് ഈ പ്രവർത്തനം, ആദിവാസികളുടെ ഇടയ്ക്കുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനം ആരംഭിക്കുന്നത്? She has taken part in, actually led 2 major land struggles in Kerala. One in 2001, and later another struggle which is called the Muttanga struggle, because it happened in that place. And in fact, I saw her for the first time in 2001 during that struggle, where I also went and spoke in Trivandrum before the Secretariat. So I have asked her how did she come to become an activist among the tribals, and what kind of life of tribals, what aspects of tribal life led her to choose the life of an activist and a leader. പറയാം.
ഞാൻ ആദ്യം തന്നെ എന്നെ തന്നെ പരിചയപ്പെടുത്താം. എൻ്റെ പേര് പറയുന്നില്ല, പേര് എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം. ഞാൻ ആദിവാസി അടിയ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയിലുള്ള ആളാണ്. ആദിവാസികളെന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ഏറ്റവും താഴെ തട്ടിലുള്ള വിദ്യാഭ്യാസവും മറ്റ് രീതിയിലുള്ള ആധുനിക സൗകര്യങ്ങളിൽ നിന്നും പുറത്താക്കപ്പെട്ട അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അതിന് പുറത്ത് താമസിക്കുന്ന ആളുകളായിട്ടുള്ള ആളുകളാണ് ശരിക്കും. ആ കൂട്ടത്തിലുള്ള ഒരാളാണ് ഞാൻ. അപ്പോൾ ആ പ്രദേശത്തുള്ള ആദിമനി വാസി എന്നാണ് ശരിക്കും ആദിവാസിയെ പറയുക. അങ്ങനെ പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ പ്രകൃതി എന്നാണ് ഈ പ്രപഞ്ചത്തിൽ സൃഷ്ടിതമാകുന്നത്, അതിനോടൊപ്പം ഈ ജനങ്ങളും ഇത് ഈ പ്രകൃതിയോടൊപ്പം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു എന്നാണ് ശരിക്കും അതിൻ്റെ അർത്ഥം. പക്ഷേ പ്രകൃതിയുടെ അധിപരും അവകാശികളും പ്രകൃതിയുടെ സ്വന്തമായിട്ടുള്ള പ്രകൃതിയുടെ ഒരു ഭാഗമായിട്ടുള്ള ഈ മനുഷ്യരിൽ നിന്നും അകന്നു പോകുന്ന വളരെ വ്യത്യസ്തമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സമീപനം ഈ ആളുകളുടെ ഇടയിൽ വളരെ സജീവമായിട്ട് പൊതുസമൂഹത്തിൽ നിന്ന് ഈ ആളുകൾ വ്യത്യസ്തമായ രീതിയിലേക്ക് പോകേണ്ടി വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. ആ കൂട്ടത്തിലുള്ള ഒരാളെന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ ഞാൻ സാധാരണ ഇപ്പോൾ ഇവിടെ വന്നിട്ടുള്ള എല്ലാ ആളുകളും നല്ല രീതിയിൽ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസം ചെയ്തവരും പ്രൊഫസർമാരും അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഉദ്യോഗസ്ഥന്മാരായിട്ടുള്ള ആളുകളാണ്. പക്ഷേ നിങ്ങളുടെ കൂട്ടത്തിലുള്ള ഞാൻ ഒരു ചെറിയ ആളാണ്. ഞാൻ സ്കൂളിൽ പോലും പോയി പഠിക്കാനുള്ള അവസരം ഉണ്ടായിട്ടില്ല, അതുകൊണ്ട് പഠിച്ചിട്ടില്ല. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ ഈ ജീവിതാനുഭവത്തിൽ നിന്ന് മാത്രമാണ് ഒരുപാട് കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയാൻ ഞാൻ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്.
Okay. She wants me to tell you what she said. आदिवासी समुदाय के हैं, अडिया, she comes from the Adiya community in Kerala. She first said how nature and life go hand in hand for the Adivasi, because they live in forests, as you very well know, and they live in a complete harmony with nature and believe in nature and her bounty. She also said all of you are educated people, officers, or degree holders, professors, but I have never gone to a school. I had absolutely no formal education. Whatever I have learnt is from the experiences of life. That's what she said to begin with.